A very good morning and warm welcome to this session on CGD as growth driver. Let me begin by welcoming co-panelists here sitting on the dais. And at the outset, I would like to thank Director General ACE and former Chairman ONGC, Mr. Subhash Kumar, for setting the context for this session, showing where we started, 1960, where we traveled, and where we have to go. So what's the potential? So thank you very much, sir. When we talk of CGD, so the CGD network are enabler for clean and reliable energy, and also they are catalysts for industrial commercial growth, transformation of transportation through low carbon mobility, and household convenience. It supplies life-sustaining fuel safely, reliably, and affordably. Its reliable supply to hospitals, educational institutions, hotels and restaurants ensure that essential services are continued without any interruption. So that's what CGD entities do. And if you look at its impact, it's fully aligned and it contributes to Government of India's vision to transform India to India gas-based economy, raising natural gas share from 6 to 15%, and CGD contributes directly for this mission. It's fully aligned with India's net zero goal 2070 roadmap, and it's aligned with and contributor for United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. It's basically service to the society and in turn service to the humanity, and so they deserve a big round of applause for doing this wonderful job for the better life and better quality of life of the society. And that's what here, the impact of CGD's business goes on quality of life, public health, safety, opportunity for employment and skill development, economic impact. Subhash sir has just explained in terms of its potential to grow, and that has huge economic impact. Then energy security and investment for growth of CGD is huge. So stakeholders sitting here may have this aspect noted so that they can do their part of job for ensuring investment. And environmental is a well-known fact. We will deliberate with the co-panelists, and let's see where Subhash sir has left this context. Next slide, please. Historically, we started 1960 and 72 first connection. After 6.5 decades, entire country has been covered except Andaman and Lakshadweep. So that's what we are, with huge growth in last decade and huge potential for growth in the future. So with this, let's begin our discussion with eminent co-panelists on CGD as growth driver. And I'll begin with MD IGL, Mr. Asu Singhal, that as per recent IEA report on Indian natural gas market, India's natural gas consumption is forecasted to increase by 60% by 2030. PNGRB's recent report indicates in good to best scenario, it's over 80% growth potential. So what role will CGD play in driving this demand and India's transition to a gas-based economy over the next decade? Will it be a growth driver? Thank you.
Thank you, Singh sir. Thank you, organizers, for inviting and giving this opportunity. I think a very nice background has been said by Mr. Subhash about how the CGD industry has grown, and its contribution has also been highlighted by Mr. Singh. So CGD, I would say, is one of the shining stars in the gas industry, because if we have to go anywhere near 15% or 19% as the recent projections are there, then since our energy demand is growing, the numbers are huge. And what are the sectors which are growing and at regular pace and where the potential to absorb higher cost LNG is there? So we find that those are limited sectors. So if we drill down to the sector where growth can happen from 6 to 15% or 19%, coupled with energy growth of India per capita is very low. So CGD is perhaps one of the only sector which can take huge amount of that portion, because fertilizer is more or less settled at around 60 MMSCMD. Refinery can take some more, other industry can take some more, but power sector is one thing where we have not been able to take or give more penetration, and the PLF is less than 20%. So CGD, as the numbers are shown in the previous slides, the CAGR is very high. The infrastructure is there, the economic ecosystem is there. We have 8,200 stations. Every year we are adding 1,400 stations, and around 12 lakh or 20 lakh connections are being added. So the whole ecosystem is there. Policy support has been there with the industry by government for quite a lot period. So if we have to put the things in right perspective, some more support will be required. One is that gas is under VAT. It's not under GST, which has been in demand for quite some time. And in some states, VAT as high as 20% is being charged. Excise duty at another 14% on CGD is there. APM is coming down. So we have to see, because we are exposed to higher LNG prices in CNG, and that makes us more volatile. Plus penetration of EV in smaller segment will be a challenge. Serving the rural area is another issue. But having said this, I believe CNG and PNG, coupled with industrial and commercial, will give a good backbone for numbers of India's growth story. If we have to come anywhere near 15%, even if we have to reach 10%, the CGD sector has to contribute around 100 MMSCMD out of the total demand projections or consumption projections of India. So I'm very optimistic that CGD will be a good growth story for the country's growth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Singhal, for your side. And very genuinely, you are talking about tax efficiency in terms of uniformity of VAT, and then long desired coverage of natural gas under GST. So let's look forward. Thank you so much. Moving to Mr. Rajiv Mathur, who has been veteran in CGD industries, we have discussed about projected demands. And these demands get translated, provided we realize this is scaling up to 18,000 plus CNG stations, around 13 crore PNG connections. So what kind of incentives, policy, regulatory support, or business models would be enablers to ensure this scale up?
Thank you, Singh Saab, and thank you to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to be here. As Subhash Kumarji put it, you know, the opportunities are immense. And for CNG, we have a target of 18,000 stations. For PNG, 15 crore connections, and thousands of kilometers of, you know, pipeline that needs to be laid. So and there are several challenges, of course. But what I've jotted down a couple of points which I thought will, if implemented or if acted upon, will help, you know, in catapulting these numbers to be achieved easily. So for 1 minute, let's assume we are not in GST and the VAT regime still prevails. But can there be a uniform gas policy adopted by every state which is implementing, where all these projects are being implemented, to have a uniform kind of a gas policy where they rationalize the VAT to a reasonable level of maybe 3, 4, 5%, and which is predictable and stable, so that these entities know what is the kind of take of the government as they implement these projects. So one is state level policies. You know, about 10 years ago, we came out with a draft, a uniform draft of a gas policy, which was circulated to all the state governments. Over a period of time, some of the states actually adopted, but then they improvised on it and, you know, limited it to only setting up CNG stations, not giving land for, you know, DRS and other things. So a more comprehensive policy which takes care of all the aspects of the CGD business are you know, in form of a policy adopted by each and every state, which, if possible, by and large can be a uniform kind of a thing with a rationalized VAT number. That, I think, will be the starting point for actually aspiring to achieve all those big numbers that have been shown here on the screen. Then the corollary to that is, you know, the kind of permissions that these companies have to, you know, ask for every time they go and dig, every time they want to give a connection, every time they want to set up a CNG stations. Can those permissions be brought to a level where they are, you know, not only reasonable in number, but there is a time-bound decision making on them. So if the states decide, because some of these things are all state subjects, whatever we might like to say and whatever our honorable minister might like to present, and which is very laudable, you know, today I see instead of 15, 19% aspirational level for the vision, which is a great thing actually. So let the state governments also come on board, rationalize the VAT, adopt a policy, adopt, you know, streamline permissions, and give it a time limit and limit the number of permissions required. I think I'll stop here because I have several other points, but we'll discuss them later. So these 3 points, I think, to begin with.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And rightly, for ease of doing business and for the purpose, uniformity of policy at a state level, single window clearance so that CGD entities can expedite the project execution. These are the basic essence. Apart from taxation, which we will talk later, one important aspect which CGD entities always carve for is allocation of domestic APM, non-APM gas for CNG transport, and that is one enabler through which it can be expanded expeditiously. So thank you so much for adding your insight. Mr. Mohit Bhatia from IGL, one of leading CGD companies. It's a CGD network will be the most visible and consumer-facing infrastructure of the country, India's gas infrastructure. And it has flexibility of adding green fuels like biogas, CBG, or green hydrogen. CGD is also projected as enabler for the hydrogen economy. So how do you see CGD network enabling the scale-up of CBG and green hydrogen blending?
Yeah, good morning all. Thank you for the organizers for giving the opportunity. I think I will start with the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think in today's contest, if we see, we are almost importing $1 billion USD of LNG and adding to the deficit. With the tremendous potential within the country for having on a Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think CBG is one space where it can be leveraged. Let me give you the numbers. The entire potential within the country of the biogas is almost 60 million tons per annum. And whereas we are consuming natural gas around 50 million tons per annum, both the domestic as well as the LNG part. So this is the amount of potential available in the country, and to have the energy security as well as the decarbonization, this is the area I think where a lot of things needs to be worked out. And we have seen in the recent scenario with the tariffs raising and the geopolitical turbulence that how we can be exposed to energy security and all. So taking the clue from this, I think the government has already given a mandate for the blending obligation for CBG from 1% this year to 5% by 29-30. And we already have in place the Satat scheme wherein around 5,000 CBG plants have to come up, and with the potential target of around 20 million of SCMD per day. And going forward, I think in the today's scenario, it is hardly 250 tons per day is the offtake. But the other scheme, I think, which is the more apt is the synchronization scheme, where the biogas is commingled with natural gas. And here, I think the opportunity or the potential of the CGD as enablers is a huge, because unless or until we ensure the offtake, nothing is going to happen. So I think here the CGD should come up forward and act as an enabler to take it forward. Just giving you some context of the IGL, almost today we have around 20 tie-ups. We are going with JV mode also, and some more plants are there in the pipeline. On today's contest, we are almost uplifting around 30 tons per day of the CBG, and we have plans, we have things in place to take it to 10% through the blending obligation. Government is also facilitating it in terms of the development of pipeline infrastructure scheme, wherein almost 1,000 crores have been kept, but there has to be a push from the CGD side also. So great opportunity for energy security as well as decarbonization, and CGD is definitely the enablers in that. Coming to the hydrogen, I think still it is in the evolving position. The cost is almost $30 per MMBTU. So it's quite high, although the regulator has given some pilot approvals. One has been done in Indore with Avantika Gas, wherein 2% blending has been done, and one in Gujarat also 5%. But I think it will take some time to get the technology evolved and then blending with the natural gas, and then only things will be forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. So rightly put, it's evolving and has huge potential. And I don't know whether we have biogas producer among us or not, but at least we must clap for them for increasing the production. It was only 11 TMT in 22-23, increased to 19 TMT in 23-24, and 24-25 ended with 43 TMT. And now during April to July, it's already achieved 30 TMT. So it's progressing. Progress is not commensurate to target of 15 million metric ton per year, but this evolution and this progress is worth appreciating, and kudos to CGD entities to enable them, because majority of the volume is injected into CGD networks. So
on hydrogen, I just wanted to add, see, we did an experiment in Indore, Avantika Gas. There we blended 2%, which was very successful. It had no impact whatsoever, and then it was supplied to at least 2,000 households in Indore. And there was no impact as far as the infrastructure is concerned. Of course, corrosion and other things will have to be assessed over long periods of time. Then they increased it to up to 5%. So 5% was doable. But beyond 5%, there are issues in terms of metallurgy, in terms of brittleness, in terms of corrosion and other things. So the experiment has not gone beyond 5%, but 2, 3, 4% is possible to be blended in the CGD systems.
Thank you, and really thank you for adding this value on hydrogen, which is again the ultimate fuel of choice. And CGD, even if 2, 3, 4, 5% blending going this will be a huge volume to establish and to start with the critical mass. So again, kudos to CGD network and CGD entities. Mr. Ajay Chaudhary from ThinkGas, Chief Strategy Officer, please throw some light on how can CGD sector serve as a catalyst both for decarbonization and inclusive energy access.
A very good morning to everybody present out here, and thanks a lot for the fellow panelists. See, one has to see the CGD network not as a simple carrier of gas molecule, but currently it is playing a very critical role of being a frontline catalyst for the writing the India's story of clean energy transition. And I will explain it in 3, 4 pointers. First and foremost, currently CNG is playing a very critical role in mass decarbonization by shifting your diesel and petrol vehicles to CNG. Secondly, bringing in the PNG, increasing the PNG connectivity across the urban areas and to some semi-urban areas, reducing the dependency on the LPG. Second pointer would be that by 11th and 12th round of your CGD network rollout, we have achieved, overall, we have covered 98% of the population. So sooner or later, when all these GAs will become more and more functional, so they will be able to bring in much more accessible energy form, both in terms of environment friendly as well as on the financial impact to a large masses of individuals. And thirdly, the third point would be that as Mohit from IGL was mentioning, that the same network can be utilized in the coming years to start supplying your other molecules like your methane and hydrogen also. So we are not just creating a CGD network, but we are creating the future-ready pathways for this more robust energy transition in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insight. So as all of us are aware that natural gas in terms of CNG is helping transport transformation through low carbon mobility, and they provide last mile connectivity to all across the society without any discrimination, and that's real inclusiveness on social front, and it's real energy justice. So thank you for this. And one small supplementary question for you, because CGD's dependence on LNG is growing, particularly because of reduction in allocation of APM. And it's a highly price volatile product, LNG globally. So do you suggest some strategy? You are looking after strategy, specific, anything trade confidential, don't share, but things which you can share at public platform, a general strategy for the benefit of CGD entities, how to take care of this volatility of LNG?
See, over the last 3-4 years, the volatility in all the business segment, whether it's a CGD or any other business vertical, that volatility because of the global, geopolitical situations, it is increasing day by day. And all the business entities, including CGD, will need to be far more agile in handling these, energy shocks or the increased, pricing volatilities. So one of the strategies which can be, adopted, which is a global practice, that first and foremost, don't keep your dependencies on one source, that the domestic, you need to start, engaging, building your strategies for getting the LNGs, need to get into the various contracts, figure out ways and means that how do we pass on the volatility in those long-term contracts to our industrial customers, like a segment, utilize the domestic APM gas, allocations towards your PNG and your CNG customers. Use the imported LNG towards your industrial customers, and they would understand, some formula-linked pricing, and they would be much more palatable to handle the volatility. And thirdly would be that as and when your spot, prices are little benign, to bring in that spot, cargoes, to have a very, very, agile mix of on the supply side, so that we can manage the price volatility at our end, and manage the customer expectations, since its CGD is slowly and slowly building that particular market for itself. And a customer, what you can call the value composition, if we are able to maintain that, so that would help us in maintaining our value, thought process in the long term with the customers.
Thank you, thank you. And especially it's for our Russian friends who have been supplying LNG at times, and other LNG suppliers. Kindly note, the Indian demand is going to grow very robust and need each a collaboration with price reasonability, and that will be enabler for Indian gas market. So thank you so much. Coming to Mr. Praveen Batra, having experience of both CGD and LPG through Confidence Petroleum, would you please throw light on how can potential risks such as supply reliability, quality standards, and cost competitiveness of CVG versus natural gas be mitigated?
Good morning all. Thanks to the panel for giving us the opportunity to actually speak on few challenges, what is actually faced during this journey. The important things are whether it is auto LPG or making a CGD setup. From last 20 years, sir, if we talk on, CGD are working on a conventional way of making stations, reaching to the government, asking for lands, taking those land, and then allocation of lands, and all those takes years. Actually, now it's time that we have to change the conventional ways of working, and we have to come up with those ways by which we can develop the infrastructure in very less time. If we talk about confidence, confidence works on a leasing model of lands. We basically lease lands, we take it from the private owners, we build up stations in a limited time, and then we dispense gases, whether it is auto LPG or CNG. The second important thing, if we talk about developing infrastructure, is the biggest problem what we are facing is that even again we talk on CGD, we have a conventional way of making 30 meters by 30 meter stations. I won't be saying working in confidence or any company actually now has to come up with a way of whatever is available. For example, if we even have a 5,000 square feet land, we should come up with a CNG station. If we have a 15,000 square feet land, we should come up with CNG, LNG stations together with a food court. Because it is a time now that we all are talking about we have made 7,000 stations or we have made 8,000. Important is what actually those stations are giving. If we talk about majority of them are DBS stations. Daughter booster stations are not even selling more than 2,500 per day. Important is not to make 18,000 stations, important is to make higher capacity stations. If we talk about the reliability of the fuel or the energy, we have to make those stations which are available for 24 into 7. If we talk about Delhi, Bombay, anywhere, we go to a CNG station, we have a queue of 2 kilometers. Even today, we established from last more than 20, 25 years now. But we are not able to eradicate queues. Big companies like IGL, MGL still have done it, but many companies, majority of companies. The only reason is the capacity what we are putting in the stations are not adequate at all. So we have to make our fuel in a way, whether we infuse biogas or we are selling natural gas, the important is that what impact we are giving on the customer. Customer reaching, you can get commercial vehicles, you can get autos, but if we talk about the people who are actually the daily customers, they get a very bad impression that going to a CNG station means a lot of queues. Immense market for CNG is there all across. But the point is that the challenges, the time frame we're coming up with stations and the capacity of stations have to be made in a way that we facilitate fuel for at least 10 years more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I rightly pointed out, if we have to make it real big and a scale up, it's a need of larger capacity biogas production. Could be a hub concept can be created so that with the mandated CBG blending obligation from 1 to 5%, starting from 25, 26, it will be enabler and helpful. And with recent change in the quality standards, which mandated now minimum 95% or more methane percentage, the issue of quality which is being faced as dispensing CBG in the vehicles directly, that is expected to come down. And if there is a growth and a scale up, CGD is capable of evacuating those quality products. So thank you for your insight. Now, Mr. Gokul is not with us, so I'll straightway move to Mr. Mathur again. Given the reduction in APM and APM gas allocation for CNG-T, what policy support are critical to make CGD projects more viable and price more affordable to customers? So I'm emphasizing on price aspects, sir. So kindly respond.
So first of all, we need to increase the availability from domestic sources. Second, we need, as you said, price stability, visibility of volumes over long term. So how do you get it? First is from domestic sources like ONGC, Oil India, and NELP, and discovered fields and all that. Connect them to, one country, one market, and one infrastructure kind of a thing, which connects all the sources with all the markets. So create the infrastructure which enables all the CGD entities to get connected and to be able to source from any domestic source. Add on to that CBM, add on to that the CBG which is being talked about and huge potential. And try and, maximize the availability from domestic sources. On top of it, policies which enable rationalization and stabilization of prices through fiscal or other mechanisms, taxations which are lower or moderate or at least predictable over long periods of time. Now, if that may not help you because that may only lead you to 30-40% of the requirements which are projected, going forward. So then we look at imported gas, international sources. So India has signed a lot of long-term contracts, but many more long-term contracts would be needed. So these companies, at least the city gas companies, can get together form something like a JERA in Japan, and have an aggregate foresight of what the requirements would be over next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Scout around for those volumes in international markets. And fortunately, we are sitting at a time when I'm told 2026 onwards, huge volumes of LNG are going to be available from international sources, from Qatar, from US, and from several other countries, but in the next 4-5 years. So look at some international contracts which give you a win-win for both the supplier as well as the buyer. Block those volumes with a graded, offtake over 5, 6, 7 years. Create the infrastructure. A lot of import terminals are already there, running half empty, so those can be utilized. But connecting pipelines and connecting the markets, all that will be the magic that would be required to ensure access to sources and access by the customer, access to the markets. I think that will be the answer going forward. And the government will have to, of course, handhold these people with, because it requires a lot of money, a lot of investment. Therefore, something like soft loans or back-ended, loans or something like that, or some subsidies. Or should I go further to say, something like the Ujjwala scheme. A Prajwala scheme is what is required by the CGD entities. So government support in terms of Prajwala scheme through CAPEX, through, of course, incentivizing through CAPEX, OPEX, and, sourcing of gas from international sources, rationalization of taxes, predictability of policy, that will take you to that magic 15% number.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, this is the topic which is concerning most of the CGD entities. And I'm happy to share that industry as a whole, and ACE in particular, led by Mr. Subhash Kumar, Director General ACE, have been taking up this issue with the ministry, PNGRB, and there is a substantial progress which is really satisfying, not in terms of increase in allocation because there is a limitation of production of APM, non-APM gas, but priority will be attached on allocation of NWG, 2 quarters advance allocation system to give you some certainty, and based on the advocacy of Subhash sir and the industry together, we expect CST invoicing very soon, which is going to give relief to CGD entities, and with the help of PNGRB, because we discuss CGD and don't refer PNGRB, it will be unfair, because PNGRB's role has been pivotal in this by authorizing 307 GA, almost 100% coverage. They are going to implement unified tariff for PNGD and CNGT, and that will be really good support to CGD entities, and it will be a big enabler to ensure higher penetration in all across the country. So, Mathur Saab, thank you so much for your insight on this. Moving to Mr. Parveen Batra again, and you are an innovator. You have been adopting various business models. So moving, you are setting up 100 CNG stations in franchisee model. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So what innovative business model could make CNG adoption more affordable and attractive for consumers? And do you think that reduction in GST on smaller vehicles announced recently, effective from 22nd September, will make CNG adoption more affordable?
Sir, to your first question, actually, I already conveyed you in the last question that we have to leave our conventional ways of making stations, thinking about stations, because this era belongs to natural gas. These 10 years are of natural gas. We are seeing many new fuels like hydrogen, and then EVs, they're cropping up or they're coming up. So I always say that this 10 years, if CNG grows, it will go for other 20 years. So we should actually, all the CGD companies should actually, it's not job of only CGD companies to come up with the CNG stations alone. It is actually job of all professional good EPC companies who should come with CGDs companies and should build up an entire infrastructure, whether it is putting steel pipelines, it is making stations, I have said you. And then we have to make standalone stations, which should come up with a visibility at a place. What is happening, putting one dispenser at a petrol pump is not giving any visibility to the CGD. CGD is not a fuel which is transmission fuel or anything. It is actually going to become the backbone of India now. So it is very important that all conventional ways should be left around and new ways in which adding extra revenues to the station, retrofitment stations coming with CNG stations, auto LPG, CNG, all with proper visibility coming together. So we have to adopt all models, whether it is coming up with franchisee model of half dodo or full dodo. We should give all opportunities open for everyone. Then only this number with a higher capacity can be achieved. Or we will be just talking on. If I talk about Bangalore, what you actually mentioned, we started Bangalore with 3 stations, and our sale at that time was 50,000 kgs. In the city of Bangalore, I'm just talking 3 to 4 years back. Today, monthly, we are selling around 66 lakh kgs only through the franchisee model. We have made 48, 49 stations, rather running is 49, and we have completed 55. But even in that model, we have a big issue of having 32 DBS stations. The big thing what I want to tell is that with 16 stations online, we are selling 1.5 lakh kgs. And 32 stations, we are selling the rest. So you can understand that if a station is having a potential and 24/7 service without having a dry time, with the existing capacities also, if we convert them to online with all the CGDs together, the things will be different altogether.
Thank you for this. And here I would like to add that under leadership of Subhash sir, we had roundtable conference on low carbon mobility, which is need of the hour to see that CNG business grows as it is expected. And thanks to IGL, MGL, ACE members, along with OEMs, Maruti, Bajaj, and Toyota, they participated in meeting and collaborated. So one, it's a time of collaboration where CGD entities, OEMs can collaborate to ensure this availability and promotion of CNG fuel vehicles so that the market grows, and business model evolution like Dodo or franchisee, these are the need of the hours, and through this CNG business will grow and evolve further. Coming back to Mr. Ajay Chaudhary, this customers acquisition and their retention for long term in any business, but in particular in gas CGD business, because we do capital expenditure in infrastructure and facilities. So how do you think that from CGD's operators' perspective, what strategies do you adopt to build consumer confidence, enhance user experience, and drive sustained adoption of PNG and CNG?
Yeah. I will just, pick up from where Mr. Batra has just finished his, talk. So basically, as Mr. Singh has also mentioned, that it is very critical for the CGD companies, since we have put so much of capital expenditure and, bringing in customers to the fuel stations and retaining them over a longer period of time becomes very, very critical for us. So I will give you an example. At Tingas, what we are currently doing is that we have roughly 500 odd stations, which would include 150 company-owned and dealer-operated stations. So there we are, making sure that we are not having only single dispenser. We are having multiple dispenser, and the company-owned stores, we are putting up almost 4 CNG dispensers. So making sure that the queuing up issues which we see normally in Delhi or in, say, in Mumbai cities, so those are avoided. So those gets little avoided. Secondly is that for the adoption of CNG vehicles, so we are taking a prolonged strategy which we are adopting. One is that on an annual basis we sit with various OEMs who are pretty aggressive on the CNG vehicles. We explain to them where all we are coming up, where all our new stations are coming up, where we are increasing the density of our existing station, and these are the time frames in which our station would come in. And then we ask to collaborate with us, okay, we are coming up with this station, whether you can incentivize your dealers to start selling the CNG vehicle. And we also pitch in from our side. We also come out with marketing schemes for the dealers who are into the CNG, who are keeping the CNG units. And for every CNG unit being sold, we give some kind of dealer incentive to those dealerships. Second, at Thingas, we have also developed a very robust retrofitment mechanism for converting the existing petrol and diesel vehicles into CNG. So we have tied up with a private utility who has operations throughout the country, and we have given them space to put up large retrofitment centers, not only for the cars and the three-wheelers. We are also trying to convert the trucks and the buses into the CNG. We have tied up with your OEMs supplying the CNG kits, the tank supplies and everything. So we are trying to create a full spectrum of the ecosystem which helps the CGD entities to convert the diesel and petrol vehicles into CNG, and as and when the density of the CNG station increases, to tie up with the OEMs to push more of the CNG vehicles into the market. Other thing which I would like to add is that ACE, as a body representing the CGD entities, can act, can be a very, very strong catalyst in this front. So on an annual basis, the ACE can bring in every CGD entity under one roof, and all the CGD entities can put across on the table that this much of stations in these areas we are coming up, and then ACE can represent the CGD entities with the various OEMs. Okay, this is what we are bringing on the table. You now let's have a suggestion from your side. What all things you can bring on the table, and collectively, along with the OEM, the CGD entities, and this retrofitment ecosystem, we can create the long-term commercial viable opportunity for all the participants into this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is customer is king, it is told, and from my view, I would request customer centricity, customer relationship, customer service. So customer for acquisition as well as for lifetime relationship of these customers are important aspects, and that's the ethos and philosophy. Maybe every entity has its own strategy, but may be adopted by CGD entities. One food for thought and one challenge or request to CGD entities. The data indicates that commercial consumption is only 2% of total CGD consumption, meaning thereby our customer base in commercial is not adequate. It's currently around 46,000 commercial customers across the country. So may I request individually, not now, I request kindly have look on this, and I may approach one or two CGD entities to get insight that what is the reason that only 2% consumption in commercial, whereas there's a lot of potential in the commercial side, because they use a lot of LPG and propane. So that's the food for thought. Moving ahead, let's move to Mr. Mohit Bhatia. It's a very interesting question that how can CGD companies balance affordability with sustainability while competing with EVs and LPG in clean energy transition? Mr. Bhatia.
Yeah, thank you, Singh Saab. I think very, very apt and very, very hot question. See, we have been always listening that the alternate, competing with alternate fuels, particularly with EV and LPG, with natural gas. But let me put it in a different way. See, we have been moving from the conventional fuels to finally the renewable energy. And natural gas is supposed to be a bridge fuel, supposed to be a transition fuel. And if we say that the EV thing will evolve overnight and natural gas will go away, it will not happen. It will take time because there are a lot of impediments for EV space also. There is a range anxiety among the EV vehicles. Then there's the availability of the recharging, that is the charging stations. Then the battery recycle thing is still evolving. And the time taken to recharge a vehicle is also a questionable thing. It takes 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whereas the customer expectations are to take a fill within 2 to 3 minutes or like that. But parallelly, if we see the segment-wise, particularly from the customer segment point of view, the CNG target customers is basically the middle income or mid-range customers whose requirements is for purchase of vehicle preferably from 8 to 15 lakh, and in this segment CNG vehicles are available. And with the intervention of the OEMs in particularly, a lot of now that impediment was there for the boot space and all, but I think Maruti has come up particularly recently in the Grand Vitara, that boot space has been, additional boot space has been given by lowering the cylinder. And a lot of modifications are being done and people are preferring. If we see almost now 7.5 million CNG vehicles are there, growing at a rate of 19 to 20%. EV is still around 2 to 3%. So both will evolve. It's not like that we are competing to EV. Both will evolve. Coming to LPG, yes, definitely. It's a competition in terms of pricing. But I think there should be some policy, and we have been canvassing. I think Sir has also raised in various forums and all in the 2040 vision also, that LPG free zoning concept. Wherever the PNG thing has already come up, the capex has been done, infrastructure has been placed, lines have been laid, and there the cylinder, LPG cylinder still continuing does not make sense. I think somewhere there's some regulatory or some policy intervention is required so that the entire country gets benefited.
Thank you, thank you. I would like to add what Mr. Bhatia has shared. There are two myths in this. One, EV is completely environment friendly, number one. Number two, whatever smogs we face in NCR during winter, the narrative has been said that it's a tail end emissions only. But the fact remains that only life cycle assessment of emission will determine that which vehicle segment is more environment friendly. So that is number one. And secondly, migration of pollutants from surrounding area, which is one of the major factors for smokes in NCR during this, rather than vehicular pollution, particularly CNG, which is already low carbon fuel. So based on these two, for the information of all the delegates and participants, that under advice of PNG-RB, Terry study. You
Sir,
please add.
just to add, sir, what you said very rightly, we should not look only on the tailpipe emissions because sir just now showed the slide also, like 56% of our energy requirement is still coming from the coal, and charging EV vehicle from where the power 56% is coming from coal. So it's still like that unless or until we move to 100% renewable energy, and also still I think you're getting what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and the study is on. IGL is leading that study, and ACE is co-partner in that, where we are putting emphasis to study the life cycle emission of all fuels, petrol, diesel, EV, LPG, CNG, LNG. Apart from this, what we are requesting that there should be a matrix developed based on the weightage of emissions so that we can put up to the policy makers to promote cleaner fuels through incentivization. So incentivize cleaner fuel, charge cess on polluting fuel. So that is the policy advocacy ACE is doing, and that's what we are requesting once again. Second, policy clarity and stability in policy, particularly in this, I'm talking about national fuel policy, which will be a very, very helpful tool for the entities, whether it is CGD entities or other business entities, to take investment decision in infrastructure, and particularly for promoting cleaner fuel, CNG, LNG, as well as emerging green fuel, biogas, CBG, and green hydrogen through very, very affordable cost by injecting into CGD network. And this is possible if there is clarity in policy and stability in the policy. And I'm talking this stability in policy from overall perspective, be it policy, be it regulations. Regulations also, if it's not stable, becomes difficult for CGD entity to take a long-term decision on this. So thank you very much, Mr. Bhatia, to share your insight on this. And coming to the last question, running little late, but it's a very, very important question from national perspective also. And my DG has been doing this advocacy, be part of the solution, go for bigger vision, which is 6 to 15%. And I throw this challenge to Mr. Asu Shingal, that how and what do you need to achieve this, Mr. Shingal?
I think a lot has been said in the initial presentation and also the coverage that many things can be done. As you rightly mentioned, there are different ministries. So sometimes there is no cohesion between different ministries. So all the countries have energy ministry, one where everything is centralized. That is one suggestion. Or at least we can have CAPSEC, cabinet rank minister as energy minister, and state rank ministers for different industries, different sectors. That will also synergize at one level. Because, I mean, if you talk about renewable, there are four ministries involved. Nobody knows where hydrogen is, PNGRB, safety, or so on and so forth. Now, 6 to 15% is to have that ambition, but if you crack it down step-wise, milestone-wise, what are the steps which we need to take to make that achieve? One and foremost is power sector, because across the globe around 40% gas goes to the power sector. In India, it is hardly 15% or so, or maybe lower than that. So that is one low-hanging fruit, I would say, because we have regas terminals, we have long-term contracts, we have gas transmission, we have gas generating power stations, and still they are running at 18% PLF. So once that grid is completed, isolated fields are connected, then more of gas can flow to different sectors. Power is one. If we can do some carbon mechanism to make sure that the polluting fuels are taxed, or at least some type of disincentivization is there on polluting fuels. Because per capita or per unit generation of power from coal or the old coal plants, if we just reduce that, I think a lot of environmental issues can be handled. if we give less polluting power generation. That is one. CGD, yes, because CGD again is competing industrial and commercial LNG. In PNG, there is subsidy on LPG side. In CNG, there is a invasion to EVs and petrol and diesel. Again, sometimes the prices are controlled or some tax changes are happening. So there also, if some incentivization VAT reform is done, that is a good positive if we can increase that. Because although we have cheaper LNG, but once we start selling it, there's a lot of taxation, 15% VAT, then tariff. Again, the gas tariff has increased to 18%, and transportation tariff part. There are states which are taking 20%. So one, that some sort of clean mechanism, carbon mechanism, where more polluting fuels are given less priority in merit order dispatch in power sector. In CNG, if some tax rationalization happen, more grid infrastructure development is going to happen. As mentioned, CBG is hydrogen and CBG can be blended in the existing setup of CGD, which will be the future pathways for the whole decarbonization. So CGD can act as a good catalyst for increasing growth. And other sectors like refinery, we are doing hydrogen adoption there, as well as almost every fertilizer plant is connected to the gas grid. Almost all the refineries are now connected. There is chemical, petrochemicals and other industries, hard to abate industries, steel can be given some promotion. So all these steps will make sure that we move towards the direction, and many things have been done, and many things needs to be done to make that actually happen.
Thank you so much. And just to facilitate and summarize what Singhal Saab has just shared, because it's really very, very challenging and tough task to achieve 15%. But to unlock the potentials, I have summarized, I'll not go into the detail with this, measures to unlock potential, which includes equal focus on first bringing natural gas under GST framework, so that rationalization of taxation is done, what he was talking about, completing national gas grid, this LNG in transport fuel. Moreover, this underutilization of LNG terminal is one of the major factors which is becoming a bottleneck, and that's due to incomplete gas grid. So expeditious completion of gas grid will be a big enabler for this one. And again, policy will play a key role in terms of GST, then complete the national gas grid, independence of transmission operator, which this industry has been talking since decades, and hopefully this will take a shape for greater flexibility and transparency in natural gas market. That needs intervention of policy. And one important aspect is storage. Tankage storage of LNG. Look at the Europe. When there was a breakdown in piped gas supply, they managed with a storage capacity of LNG. They reached up to terminal utilization of more than 70% in 22. Figure is there in the slide. Whereas our average, national average is 36%. So in case of uncertainty and disruption, it's a storage capacity which is going to save country strategically. So in terms of LNG tankage capacity enhancement, in terms of a strategic reserve of natural gas. But because India is a supply deficit market, we are not paying much attention on the strategic reserve of natural gas. But down the line, with the promotion of domestic gas production, if we are able to enhance our production, then it will be a strategic need to have a strategic reserve. So with this, I'm again coming to CGD segment, where need of our is to have policy support, regulatory support, so that PNG achievement, CNG achievement can be done on time to realize the potential, and the demand projected by PNGRB in the recent report published by PNGRB, CGD is contributing 50% of the incremental demand up to 2030 and 2040. So contribution from CGD, 50% itself is a major driver as far as CGD as a growth driver is concerned. And this composition of natural gas with this enhanced scenario, they have come out with two scenarios, good to go and good to best. So good to go, percentage of natural gas in PE becomes 8%, and good to best, it becomes 10%. So 9% or 10% is a considerable growth as far as composition of PE concerned. But going forward, as Mr. Singhal added, that power sector is one which has potential to consume a lot of natural gas, but it is running currently at lower power factor. So there's a need of further reform. Huge reforms have been done in power sector, but further reform of pooling gas-based power and thermal-based power, so that affordability of gas power increases and more gas can be consumed by power sector. So combined together, we'll head north, and there is a huge potential for CGD to grow, and CGD is going to remain driver of the growth. So with this, I'd like to thank co-panelists. I would like to thank distinguished guests and all the delegates. And last but not the least, I would like to thank organizers. Thank you so much.
You.